All right, should we go ahead and get this thing kicked off? Let's do that. Thank you all for joining again. My name is Alex Bingham. I will be your host and moderator for today's panel of experts on Atlassian Team 26 and what we saw there. So, about this webinar, we are currently recording. We'll be sharing that following the webinar. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So there is a Q&A feature. Some of you may have already seen and found. Please feel free to drop questions in there as we go. We have left ample time at the end for Q&A. So we're looking forward to being able to get to that piece of things. And then just a quick blurb on who we are. For those who may not be familiar, we are ISOS Technology. Our purpose is to streamline, optimize, and modernize the way our clients work. And we believe strongly in creating a five-star client experience for our clients. We are trusted by clients, driven by outcomes, and powered by people. And a little bit of shameless celebration. We were finalists for three different awards, partner awards at Team this year, and we were fortunate to win one of those. It was the Atlassian Award for Customer Success. We like to say clients, but Atlassian likes to say customers, so we graciously accept the Atlassian 2026 Solution Partner of the Year Award for Customer Success. And now let's introduce the speakers. So everybody knows me already. I'm Alex Bingham. I'm the Chief of Staff here at ISOS Technology. Let's go ahead and Marianne, let's have you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Name is Marianne, as introduced, and I am the Director of Client Success. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Marianne. Danielle?
Hey, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Danielle Paula, Senior Strategic Advisor here with ISOS Technology, representing ISOS Federal.
Thank you, Danielle. And Nick?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, Nick Sommerfeld, Director of Client Solutions. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Awesome. All right, let's start with some Team 26 headlines. So these are kind of the major things that we saw at Team. There are a few other different topics that we'll touch on throughout the webinar today, but the real headlines were around Rovo and the teamwork graph, really bringing AI to the forefront of the Atlassian stack and really how that interacts within all of the different tools and the benefits that brings. Then the teamwork collection and the software collection, which themselves are not new, but do have some new features, also AI based, that we're excited to be able to talk a little bit more about. And then the product collection, which is a new collection that Atlassian has put together that we think has some real benefit for clients. And so, as is our custom, if you've been to one of our team recap webinars before, we'd like to start with a poll. The first poll that we're about to launch here is if AI could search across all of your team's work, Jira, Confluence, Stack, GitHub, or Slack rather, sorry, Figma, and actually understand the context, where would you use it first, or what would you use it to do first? And so we have finding decisions, why they were made, onboarding new team members faster, incident response, root cause analysis, or understanding code and tech debt. Just curious how you guys are seeing this as a potential benefit for yourselves. And this is obviously a leading question to what we want to talk about next. Curious how you guys are seeing this within your companies. So finding decisions and why they were made, and understanding code and technical debt as the front runners, and incident response, root cause analysis as a close second there, and then onboarding new team members faster. Still interesting, but not quite as prevalent. Interesting. So that's great. So finding decisions and why they were made, all these things I think we will be able to touch on here in just a second. So let's start with talking about the teamwork graph. So this is really the foundation of the Atlassian AI move with Rovo. And so let's talk a bit about the implications of this. Let's start with Danielle.
Yeah, thanks. So I was really excited to see the teamwork graph. It's one of those things that allows us to see kind of the neural network within organizations. And I think the context is really important here for people who are using the Atlassian suite. So before we were able to see the teamwork graph, it was mostly within the Atlassian environment with small or little amount of connectors into other systems, but now they've really expanded that. I think one of the things that they said is that there's over 150 billion different connections now within the teamwork graph, just between people, systems, different types of work that we're trying to do. And it really brings all that context in so that we can do work more efficiently and effectively. I mean, I'm one of those people that has a million different browser tabs open all the time, and it's really difficult sometimes to context switch or go to different tools to get the information that I need. And now this teamwork graph is really bringing it all together within Rovo so I can search across all of those different platforms and tools and products all at the same time. So I have a complete picture of what's going on across the organization. And Nick, I'm really interested what you think about the teamwork graph. I know you've worked with it before and we were part of the early access program. What did you see this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about like the progress that's been made over the last year. Danielle, to your point, we were early adopters, part of the testing for Rovo and the Teamwork Graph. What I'm super excited about right now is the ability to feed more data, external data, things that don't exist as a connector with Rovo into the Teamwork Graph. So there are, and I think it's in early access right now, but APIs are being developed to feed data into the teamwork graph that maybe doesn't exist, like I said, from a connection perspective. So you can start feeding it much more context than you could before. But yeah, I think that we're going to start seeing Rovo become more useful outside of the data that already lives in the Atlassian stack, and that's going to be awesome. And if you join this webinar, and if you were at team, if you weren't at team, and you weren't sure if we're going to talk about AI a lot or Rovo specifically, that was predominantly the focus for Team 26. And so, if you have any questions about AI, about Rovo, definitely put them in the chat.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you were talking about too is just all that data that's coming across. One of the things that I really liked about the teamwork graph and using Rovo and how they were demonstrating it at Team was that you can actually see where it's pulling all of the information from and the thinking behind gathering that information. So you can see the 60 or 25 different sources that you're pulling from across Google Docs, Figma, GitHub, etc. And so it's really neat to see all of that context and data coming in and then providing you with a real complete answer.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think you know what you sorry, real quick.
yeah, please.
One of the more powerful things that I talk to folks about is like, sure, is it another AI? Yes. Like Rovo is another AI. Every company probably is using three or four, whether you have Microsoft and you're using Copilot or, you have ChatGPT or Claude from an enterprise perspective. That's great. We in Atlassian are not saying get rid of them. Like there are purposes for each and every one of those. Um, but the ability to leverage your other AI tools, feed them into Rovo as an example, is sort of like is going to superpower or it's going to be the superpower because Rovo is best at taking action within the stack. So you want to, work with your tickets or work with content from a Confluence perspective. Like Rovo takes actions best inside the tool, but maybe you want to feed it from elsewhere. So like the teamwork graph allowing external data to be fed in is going to, I think, supercharge a lot of people's processes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. And I think the word that I've heard both of you use a couple of times now is context. And so I think that that part is what from what I saw was the really powerful piece of this, right? Is that Rovo isn't just taking prompts, but is actually can make recommendations based on the connectivity and the data that it's finding in the teamwork graph, which is a pretty exciting leap for Rovo and has some pretty broad implications. Like Nick, when you talk about being able to get outside of the Atlassian stack with Rovo, that feels like a lot of what you're talking about and thinking about there.
Mhm.
I think from any
Yeah.
company's perspective as well, you're like breaking down silos a little bit. So now you
Mhm.
actually get to be pulling in from different parts of the company that you maybe didn't know that you had information there as well. So being able to break down the barriers, being able to work together as a company as a whole, it seems to be something that's very beneficial.
Yeah, love that. Okay, there are a couple of comments in the Q&A that might be applicable here. One of them, and so we can take those. kind of as we
Yeah.
go if we have some time and that sort of thing. So one of them for some, the teamwork graph isn't pulling in Jira or Confluence, opened up a ticket with Atlassian. Have you guys heard anything about that at all, Nick? Do you know anything about that?
That shouldn't be happening.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, obviously I think the ticket is the best place to start, but no, that should all be there natively. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then coming up next, we'll talk about connections, connectors, what those look like too within companies. So interesting. It's certainly yeah, Jira and Confluence is where that should be starting. Other one, there seems to be two approaches at Sean's company. My company wants to pull data from Atlassian MCP into other applications like Amazon Q and Kiro. Prefer the connectors in Atlassian. Thoughts on that?
So good that there's only two potential approaches right now. I think at a lot of organizations there are, you know, many, many more than that. I think everyone's got an opinion. Every different group or department within an organization has an opinion on how they want to leverage AI. I think um, there are a lot of those who maybe haven't caught up or haven't built a strategy yet, don't have an organizational opinion on how they want to roll out AI, and maybe that's caused some delays in rolling out. So um, we definitely like to have those conversations with our clients and try to help design what that best approach is. You are not alone in that, but it comes from an organizational understanding and decision of what they want to do.
Love that. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. And thank you for the questions, Sonia and Sean. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move to our next poll as we think about the power of the teamwork graph and how we were looking at that and the amount of data that the more data, the more good data, I should say, that you can put into it, the bigger benefit you'll get out of this. So curious, how many Rovo connectors does your organization currently utilize? And so we have 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 plus as your options for this. And just curious where that sits for you.
I think there are still a lot of those questions. A lot of the admins that we're talking to as well about Rovo connectors, they're getting inundated about different connectors from different systems. And so they're trying to balance, where do we actually allow the connectors to connect? And does it make sense across all of our tools, or should we centralize, going back to that governance and the AI transformation kind of rollout and what they're going to allow in the organization, or they're just going to let it be a kind of a free for all?
Yeah, and to the previous point around, an organization having two opinions, where are most people working? In some cases, it's so disparate that it doesn't make sense right now to have Atlassian be the core driver for, or Rovo be the core driver for that, right? Maybe there's a different place. Ideally, in the future, it's Atlassian, it's Rovo, but some organizations aren't there yet.
Yeah, and so to that end, 1 to 5, strong majority there. Some that were in the 5 to 10 range. I saw one of the chats that was at about 10, so somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's great. So thank you for sharing that, because I think obviously with the teamwork graph, the connectivity is it has more robust benefit now. And so let's go ahead, Angel, and let's move on to the next topic if we can. So the teamwork collection and the software collection, again, not new, but a lot of new AI that has been applied here. So agentic AI, you have, as Atlassian says there, and you see the video playing on the screen, the new agents of teamwork. So you can collaborate now with agents directly in Jira and in the different tools. You can assign work to those agents, either native Jira agents or third-party agents. You can collaborate and interact with them to draft comments and to update status, things like that. And I think one of the big call-outs here is that they're not trying to replace humans with AI. What they're trying to do is make human work faster and more efficient. And so I think Nick, do you want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, so this is one of the cooler things that we've seen so far that you can do with Rovo. It's Forge built Rovo agents in some cases, and in others, it's native, from connectors that you have. But introducing agents and their context, their instructions directly in your workflow as part of, as you saw in the video, like a Kanban structure, super powerful. And it doesn't have to just be from a like a DevOps perspective. It can be from a creative perspective, from a design perspective. It's not specifically focused on software development. So it can be used all over the place, which is why we have, we're attributing this to not just software collection, but also teamwork collection.
Yeah, I think that is, so when we talk about connectivity, obviously, the more connectors that it has, the better context it can create, and the more that it can actually do for whoever's interacting with it to work. And so what I like the immediate use case that I thought of on this was not around development, but was around how we move initiatives forward. Because part of what I saw there that was pretty cool is having some of the other tools that Atlassian has rolled out over the last year or two, like things in the strategy collection, like talent and things like that, and how those things will interact to the point that Rovo can make recommendations on who the best people to do various work. Again, not just development work necessarily, but whatever types of skills you're keeping in these tools, to be able to make work better and more efficient. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the invocation of agents up until this point, I guess a little before team, this stuff was announced, but it was leaned into heavily. Before that, the invocation of these agents were automation driven. And that was tricky because if it required input, it didn't necessarily, you couldn't really do certain things. Now that you can just have them on your workflow, is great.
Love that. There's one question in the chat that maybe we have a minute to get to. He says, if I understood correctly, that company managed cannot select agents like you do in team manage. It has to be automation or workflow, not from the board, like in the video. We're familiar with that?
Right off the bat, no. I will think about that as we continue.
Okay. I will leave that on the board then so we can come back to it. Make sure we don't lose track of that. Very good. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and keep moving, kind of moving from something that has been around but now has some new features, especially AI embedded in it, to something that actually is net new, the product collection. So Nick, talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, this was one of the like real new announcements at Team Product Collection with an app, product, whatever you want to call it, called Feedback, paired with Jira Product Discovery. Obviously, Rovo is the through line there with everything, but really taking Jira Product Discovery and now Feedback into a place where it could displace things like AHA, as if folks are familiar with that. So Jira Product Discovery as a way to intake ideas and garner feedback and understand effort and estimate capacity and ability, things like that. All of this now being brought together under one collection, I think is great. Jira Product Discovery kind of sat on its own somewhat. If you'd have asked me, like it maybe fit better in strategy collection prior to product collection come along. So I think it's going to be a great thing for product owners, which I was in a previous life. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. I think we've seen, I think, some pretty good pickup and some pretty interesting use cases for JPD. And so to have now some more features built around that and some tools built around that to have a full product collection is pretty neat. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and keep that moving then, because these were the main headlines. But wait, as always, there is more. There were a couple other things that we thought that were interesting and stood out a bit. And really a couple of tools that have been acquisitions of Atlassian's for a little while now, but they maybe have a little bit clearer use case within the stack. So, Nick, let's have you again talk about DX.
Yeah, I mean, and just that, just like you said, this is something that was acquired a bit ago. I think now has found purpose in the software collection, especially with that Rovo AI through line through all of the products. So I believe it's now part of the software collection, DX is. So really, I just wanted to have this here to inform folks to go out and take a look at DX. From a DevOps, DevX perspective, it's a very interesting tool.
Love that. And then, yeah, another one that I think was maybe less clear when it was acquired, sort of what the how it fit into this, but now with the teamwork graph and how that is being utilized to understand now Dia, the browser company that was acquired last year. I think there's some really interesting use cases here as well, and some different features it has, like creating a morning brief and that sort of thing, using really connecting across all the different types of communications tools that your company uses. In fact, we have a few early adopters at ISOS of this. I think Danielle is one of those. Danielle, any comments so far?
Yeah, so I just started using this just yesterday, but I've found a lot of value in it so far. I really like how Dia within the browser can take the context of the different tabs that you have open into consideration when providing feedback or input. Another one of the tools that I used recently, which I was impressed by, was when I'm in Gmail, I can actually call up the Google Calendar to find my availability so I can respond without having to switch tabs, which has been really helpful as well, just for scheduling. So I'm excited to continue using this and see more of what value it can bring.
Yeah, our outgoing CEO, Thad West, who's often likes to be an early adopter of things, but also likes to be a skeptic, has also adopted this and is a huge advocate for it. Some of the things that he's seen with it so far. So some pretty cool stuff going on with Dia as well that we think potentially has some value out there. So I think that, as we talk about some of the tools and the announcements that Atlassian rolled out team, there's also obviously a lot of other things going on within the ecosystem. And so moving like the idea of cloud and just all the things that happen in cloud, the idea of unlocking the cloud, as we would say, the DC end of life and the move towards cloud, all of those things. I think there's a lot happening in that space. And so, Marianne, can you start us off with just kind of thoughts on what you're seeing there?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Alex. So, with everything we've walked through from like Teamwork Graph and the new collections and everything, the agentic shift cloud strategy is probably the top of mind for a lot of you right now. From what I see from the chat, there's a lot of people still on DC, still on that journey towards cloud, and it should be. So, here's how we're thinking about it at ISOS. Um, if you're thinking about that journey to cloud and you're on the way, on that journey or embarking on it, now is the time to really get intentional about what that journey actually looks like for you. So, with product, with teamwork, with software collections, all evolving so fast as you can see, you don't want to be duplicating any effort or migrating in a way that leaves value on the table for the next 6 months. Um, Plan for where Atlassian is going, not just where you are today. What we're seeing is that the organizations that are getting this right aren't migrating in like silos. It's not just an IT project anymore. Marketing, finance, product ops, everyone has a stake in this outcome. So the verticals that we see that are, getting the strongest adoption are the ones that are treating cloud as a business transformation. So it's not just a platform swap anymore. So you really want to ask yourself, who at your company actually has a seat at this table? It's really time to bring in as many stakeholders as you can to see what you want to go to and what that future looks like for you. And on AI specifically, the credits that are going to come with your licenses are going to be very meaningful. And AI is going to unlock most of what makes these collections compelling. So if you have security or compliance concerns, and most enterprises do, let's be real, from what I see, a lot of people have security concerns. Start that due diligence now. Really, don't let it become the blocker that keeps you from using what you're already going to be paying for. And for those companies that are already on cloud, I think the question shifts. It's no longer how do we get there? What are we going to do? It's what do we optimize next? Which upgrades are going to give you the most leverage? Where can you enhance and how will your teams actually work from day to day? As you know, Alex and the team and Danielle and Nick were saying, it's now humans plus AI together, and it's the efficiency that is going to really help your company progress. So, wherever you are on this journey, our recommendation is the same. Work closely with Atlassian and a partner that you trust. Hopefully, that's all of us here. We'd love to help you figure out what really makes sense for your environment.
Love that. Thank you, Marianne. Nick, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I think what's what was super interesting at Team is, well, this year where we're at is a lot of folks have migrated to the cloud already, right? Most of mid-market, let's say, most of the middle-sized Jira instances have moved. There's still a lot of maybe smaller or massive sites to go, but a lot are in the cloud already. And I think Team last year was a lot of still migration focus. This year, it's pivoted a bit. Not a whole lot of migration focus. Obviously, that's still a priority, but with so many already on the cloud now, it pivots to what is your strategy? What is your plan now that you are in the cloud? Like Marianne was saying, it's not just an IT decision. It's all the other groups. It's not a shadow IT decision either. It's every other group that's using the tool. So at Team, like we were talking with clients, prospects, whoever, and they were from all different departments. There were people from legal departments that were a Team, from finance, from marketing. Like it wasn't just IT folks.
I think it seems like also, the question that Atlassian has had to answer, and therefore we've had to answer for some of our clients on behalf of Atlassian, is why move to cloud, right? Especially if the native Atlassian users sit in the IT department, sit in the as developers or whatever that is. It's worked just fine on DC. Like why do we have to move though? And I think what you start to see now is they'd kind of throw out, well, the strategy collection or Rovo, and these, and it's kind of like, okay, but like what do we do with that and what does that mean? And now I think what you start to see is the interconnectivity of those things. Like you were saying, Nick, is like the conversation has shifted from migrate to cloud to like actually what happens when you're in cloud, and how do you start to take advantage of that? I mean, I think it's well known that Atlassian has maintained two code bases for this for a long time, from the very start. So they've stopped they've stopped doing anything to update the DC code base, and everything is being added in the cloud. So the features that are being added really rapidly, and they're being connected to each other so that there's real benefit and value, and so that actually the value can be realized outside of the IT department, and in other places. And that's, I think, what we're seeing as well across a lot of the different solutions that we're developing and things like that too. So it is, I think, Marianne, like you were saying, really important if you're in cloud to think about how are you unlocking that. And if you're not there yet, the path to cloud is important, but then also what happens when you get there is equally important.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I think, a really important piece of the story from Team. I think there's some other things that I think we know are important to our clients, and frankly are important to us as well. And so we can go ahead and move to that piece of things too, which is public sector and federal headlines. So Danielle, as you mentioned, representing the federal practice. What are the headlines, Danielle, or potentially lack thereof, I suppose? What do you got?
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I think we were hoping for a little bit more for specifically public sector and the federal market. As most of you know, we've announced Atlassian announced end of life for a data center, which will be expanded for or extended for most of those with like a .mil address or in the government space. But we still don't have a firm timeline on when like an IL5 or an IL6 cloud environment will be available. However, I'm really encouraged that that is coming from some of the side conversations with some of the Atlassian folks who were represented at Team that, we should look forward to some announcements hopefully this summer. So I'm keeping my ears open to hear some of those. And I think the other thing to think about is that we do also have, if you are a SLED organization, you do potentially have the access to commercial cloud. And so you should get in there and maybe call up Marianne and Nick to see how you can get yourselves in there to start using all of the great functionality that was announced here at Team this year.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for that, Danielle. Yeah, and so I think there's certainly more hopefully to come there. I think it's something we're seeing. I know really close to Danielle, you and some of your teammates in the federal practice are seeing really close to what's going on in Atlassian, and I know that's something that we get asked a lot. So count on us to continue to provide updates as we get them there, and as we're able to provide them. So yeah, so let's go ahead and we'll move to one of our favorite sections of this, the lightning round. So a few questions. We'll just kind of go around the room here. First question for the group. I've seen, I should say, I'll tee this up a little bit. I got my email that Team on Demand was available from Atlassian. I know that means that not all speaking sessions are necessarily available to be watched, but those that were recorded should now be available. I think that there is some sort of gateway, there's some sort of registration required, I think, even to watch the on-demand shows, if I'm not mistaken. But just curious, what is the must-watch speaking session that you guys have seen? Let's start with you, Marianne.
I like the keynote. I think the keynote was really well done. MCB really, talked about what his future was, what, where Teamwork Graph was and I was with a client, and they were really excited about that. I thought it was awesome to see a demo of also how they had a client use it. So, being able to see it in real time, being able to hear it at the keynote. I thought that wrapped things up really well as a start for the whole Teams 26. So if you get a chance to watch the keynote, I would highly recommend that because I thought it was really well done. So
Love that. Thank you. Danielle, how about you?
Yeah, so I actually watched Zero to Hero Building Robo Agents. It is available on YouTube, so you don't have to log in to Atlassian Team if you don't have that access. That one was really great, especially if you're new to building out robo agents. I thought it was really interesting to watch how they're using agents and sub agents and some of the automations within Studio to really focus on ticket deflection, specifically within the service collection. I'd highly recommend watching that one.
Love that. Thank you. And Nick, how about you?
Yeah, two, I guess. Selfishly, I gave a talk, but I think that's not publicly available, so that's unfortunate. But if anyone's curious, it was about ServiceNow to JSM. So if you want to talk about that, I'm here. But for one that you can actually go and watch, Wendy's has done some really cool stuff, coincidentally, with ISOs. But they gave a pretty nice they had a nice speaking session where they talked about their journey over the last year and unlocking the cloud, leveraging the tools, reworking how they worked to just be better within the tools that they have. So yeah, I'd
Yeah,
I'd I'd say Wendy's. Listen to that
yeah,
one.
love that. Thanks, Nick. And I love all of those ones that you guys were mentioning. I would also throw in, it's called Designing for Flow, how Atlassian Williams F1 team is building an AI-led system of work. I think obviously it was a great opportunity for Atlassian to promote their F1 team, but it is pretty cool to see how they're using AI in that field where, hundreds or even thousands of seconds are the difference makers, and the tiniest of advantages, and how AI fits into that and helps them innovate. It's pretty neat. So anyway, obviously a big focus on AI across a lot of these things, but thought that was fascinating. Let's go ahead and do one more lightning round, I guess. Anything that you felt was lacking or missing at Team 25 for you guys? And I think, again, not that I think there was a lot of amazing stuff, but was there anything that you felt like you wished that you had seen or heard? Marianne, do you have anything there?
So I did not I've been to teams for the last 3 years now, and I think that everyone has kind of gotten better. And
Mhm.
I didn't think there was anything that I was lacking or missing from it. In fact, I appreciated that this time they really showed what they were really working on. I know the clients that I spoke to were really grateful for the classes that they had. The only thing that they wished there was more of it. There was more
Yeah.
spaces in those rooms. So if anything, that's what I heard was that clients were like saying, their spaces were so limited for some of these sessions that they wish there was more of them, and they wish they didn't overlap so much because they couldn't get to all of them. So if anything, perhaps more rooms, more sessions. That was what people were looking for. But apart from that, I thought it was really well done. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, thank you, Marianne. Danielle, how about you?
I mean, other than maybe having some more public sector or federal announcements, that would have been nice. But honestly, I agree with Marianne there. I thought everything was done really well. Lots of really great comments from folks about the quality of the different talks and sessions that they had. And again, unfortunately, just not enough space, but maybe that's an opportunity, and shows how much interest there is in learning more about Rovo, agents, AI. I think some of the clients that we did talk to as well were some of the things that they were saying were along the lines of, I wish more people from my company were here to learn this because I think we could really harness the opportunities and leverage the value for our companies.
Yeah, love that. Thanks, Danielle. Nick, how about you?
I mean, I did until they both spoke. So, like, I think the biggest thing going into team that I was concerned with was, yeah, the lack of was, the need to sign up for sessions. I don't know that that had been a thing in the past that I can remember. Maybe that's a sign of good things, right? More attendance, and definitely keeping the sessions tighter so that maybe they're a little more interactive and helpful. So definitely walked into team, um, thinking about that, hoping that that is with something that's going to be addressed in the future. Um, a tighter focus on the massive market that is the public sector, the federal sector. Like I think that is, and there's a lot of work to do there to get a high designation in IL5, IL6. So like it's not as if every week, every month there's going to be an update there. So um, I think lacking though more public roadmaps for some of the products. I think, 5, 6 years ago, there were four main products or whatever the number was. Super easy to keep track of everything. Now there are 10 to 15 main products and they all have their own 10 to 15, microservices or features as part of it that have their own release schedules. So um, I think what's coming was probably a little lacking, though there was a lot of great things around what is now, right?
Right.
So it is a balance.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of where I was at too. Was um, I think understanding when and how all of this becomes real, and how it all really connects together is really maybe the only thing I would say is like, that's obviously coming out of every team where there's always a level of excitement about all the things that have happened. It feels like most of these things are further down the path than they have historically been when they've been announced at team, which is great. It's great to see that. Um, they did a demo on stage in front of the audience on the keynote that Marianne recommended. It was pretty awesome, just to see. It did open my eyes certainly to some of the different ways that they envision some of these things working, and got my wheels turning a bit, which is cool. But I think, it's always that a little bit of that hold your breath and wait and see when things come to life, right?
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's why I like these things, and I like, when talking to clients or prospects, like what would you like to see? What issues are you seeing with the products, or what good things are you seeing? Um, us as ISOs taking those things back to Atlassian. Ideally, I would like to think has a little power behind it. So we always want to, I always want to get that feedback of how folks are using the tools and what their experience is.
Love that. All right. Well, thanks for playing the lightning round. Let me put you on the spot for a little bit there. Let's go ahead and let's move to some Q&A. I've seen there are a couple more questions in the chat we can get to, and then would gently encourage anybody else in the audience out there. Please feel free to drop questions in the chat so that we can address them here. Questions for the panel. Let's come back to the one about company managed agents and the impact there. Nick, I know you were thinking about that. There was a question from Sonia. Any time frame on DIA being available for Windows? Is anybody aware of that? It says looks like it's just for Mac right now. I didn't realize anybody was still using Windows computers, so that's good. It's good to know. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. I know that is a prevalent part of the market. So, but does anybody know? Danielle, do you know?
It doesn't, I can't see in a date, but you can sign up to get on the list to be alerted for when it becomes available. So if you
There
haven't
we
already,
go.
you should probably sign up.
Yeah. And Sean comments that his company will not allow DIA, which felt like a womp womp moment. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
that's a bummer.
Well, and I
Um,
think browsers are such a like personal
they
thing.
are. Yeah.
I'm curious to see who adopts it, why they adopt it, how it works for them. Some people swear by, they will not switch browsers for any reason.
And my understanding is based on Chrome. So I mean, if you're a Chrome user, then maybe that's a bit of an easier transition. But if you're not, then yeah, to your point, I mean, it is that's a you spend most of your day in tabs. Like, how what does that experience look like for you? So, question from Chris: were there any sessions that talked about what a more modern project management experience might look like given all the advancements with Gen AI? Interesting question. Does anybody have feedback on that? Did anybody see one of those? I did not personally see one, but I don't know if anybody saw one specifically about that.
Like I'd have to go back and look at what the name
Yeah.
of it was or what the few were. There definitely was a focus on more modern project management and sort of under the guise or under the umbrella of their direction for strategy collection and what that means from like an align or a focus and talent perspective. I think as you've seen Atlassian make changes to even how they label things, like issues are now work items, projects are now spaces. It's very hard to have a conversation with a project management group and talk about their projects and how they run them, and then Jira projects and how that, like the terminology got weird. And so I think the evolution of the strategy collection, hopefully where it is in the next 6 to 9 months, plus like some of the minor tweaks they're making to how they name things in Jira, is moving in that direction. But there were a few sessions, so I just have to find the names of those.
Yeah. Check out the on demand library for
You
that
might
for
want to
sure.
look out for not only strategy collection talks, but also RoboMax,
Hmm.
because that was also introduced and can do multi-step, like deep thinking. And so there were some talks around that as well and how it can improve cross-project collaboration, execution. So especially if you're working in like a scaled agile environment, that's one particular feature that you might want to look into as well.
Oh, it's a great call out. I love that. Um, okay, yeah. So, and then Sean just made a comment. Not sure if it is fully related to Chris, but found the JPD plans talk on the last day, and so perhaps has something to do with the project management aspect of things too. And so let's come back to team managed, company managed, what that looks like. So the original question was if it's company managed, cannot select agents like you do in team managed, has to be automation or workflow, not from the board like in the video. And then a couple of follow-up comments. I think they mentioned that it was coming to company managed spaces. And then another comment, if our cloud environment prohibits team managed type in Jira for standardization, we only allow company managed. Does that mean that we are limited in utilizing agents in Jira? So Nick, I don't know if you gave that head time while you were also talking to give that thought.
Yeah, so I like 99%, let's go there. I think literally as of May, like I think this was a very recent within the last week or two thing, or coming in the next week or two, that is more broadly available within company managed projects.
And then do we think that they'll be able to be chosen from the board like in the video
Yeah,
when that comes? Okay, so that okay,
yeah.
good. Okay, so from what he's seen with company, you can do automations or workflows just not from the boards, but we think that it will be able to come from the
Yeah,
boards
and
like that.
whether you're seeing that today, it may be something that if it has rolled out, it's a slow roll.
Yeah.
Generally, these things don't hit all at once, but yeah, from everything I'm seeing, it's there for company managed.
Okay, great. So Sean, hopefully that is helpful. Appreciate the questions there. Are there any other questions? I think we've cleared out the questions in the chat for right now. We'll wrap with a going once and going twice on questions and sold, and then I will go ahead and wrap us up for the webinar here. So a couple of things that we just want to be able to share with you as we kind of wrap this up. There are a couple of things that we do with clients that we think can add a lot of value. One of them is called an ISO stay, which is an on-site working session designed around your team's priorities. That on-site can happen in the ISO's offices in Tempe if you would like. It's really hot in July, so we'd really prefer to come to you if possible. But it's really designed to help solve the challenges you're having, help with adoption and efficiency of Atlassian tools across your enterprise. And then the other one is what's called the Icon program. And it's where we celebrate our most valued clients, offering exclusive opportunities to showcase success, connect with peers, and influence the future of Atlassian solutions. So it is kind of our what I guess I would call our MVP clients, our most valuable, the ones we have the closest relationships with, and that are really collaborative with us. And we always love to continue to deepen the relationships and the partnerships we have in the Icon program. Is a really big step in that direction for us. So with that, I will wrap with let's streamline, optimize, and modernize the way you work. On behalf of Marianne, Danielle, Nick, and the rest of the team at ISOS, I would like to thank you for attending the webinar today and hope that you found value in our recap of Team 26. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day.